of Football in Focus at the Kickback Jacks on Battleground Avenue. Back for another week. Got some great football to talk about this week. A lot of big games in the recent weeks and big games coming up. Missed last week due to the storm, but back here full time this week. Got the Grimsley Whirlies later on, and we'll be talking to those guys about their big games in recent days. Got Kris Walser with us, Greensboro Sports Radio 2. Kris has been on the scene all season long, along with Dimitri Morrison. And, we lost Coach Darrell Steele earlier. I hadn't talked with Kris directly on the broadcast about that yet this year, but had a lot of talk with Kris kind of on the phone and by email and by internet, talking about Coach Steele's absence, and still there with you in a lot of ways. I mean, you and Dimitri have done a good job kind of getting used to each other now, starting to bond together.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those circumstances where Coach Steele and I had agreed to bring on Dimitri Morrison. He was going to be more of a stats role and, kind of filling in. So we kind of show him the ropes of what we do and how we do it and all that. He's got lots of on-air experience through WFMY News 2, and he's done a lot of radio, so he's comfortable with that sort of stuff. But we never really thought of him as being a color commentator sort of thing, and hoping that maybe later on that he could do some play-by-play, because that's really what he's more suited for. But with Coach Steele's sudden passing on the middle of August 14th, I believe was the date, and then the 17th, 19th, when we had the Page-Davie County game, so we had 4 days to prepare. We actually buried Coach Steele on the morning of the Friday, and then Dimitri and I had to go on that night for Davie County at Page. And, Coach Steele's with us. They announced his replacement for basketball. Shauna Polk, longtime assistant over there at Northeast Guilford.
Right.
And, I can't say enough about the Northeast family and the way they've treated me and my wife and all of us at Greensboro Sports Radio 2. We got our start there, covered them for 2 seasons, and then Coach Steele and I branched out last year, and we continue to move on and do things. And he's sorely missed, but I can't appreciate Dimitri Morrison enough for the way he stepped in, his professionalism, and being able to keep this thing going, because that's really what we wanted to do.
And he worked with you guys in it all in the past? Or
No.
His first visit on board on the broadcast is the very first game he did?
Had never done sports radio ever. And
what about Coach Lippard? Where's he at these days?
He is the offensive coordinator at West Iredale.
Okay, kind of back where he was at a few years ago?
And we might, he was in Statesville.
Right in that area?
Then he went to South Iredale. After he left Northeast, he went to South Iredale, and then he got the offense coordinator job at West Iredale in the middle of the season last year, and transferred over there, and that was more of a teaching position sort of thing, reason for moving. And then at West Iredale, and they look like that they're poised to probably make the playoffs, I would guess, in that 2A.
What kind of record they got these days?
I believe they're 5-4.
They're getting close to that end of the season run like everybody else.
Yeah, and they have to go through their gauntlet now. They got High Brighton still lurking out there, and High Brighton is probably one of those picks in that 2A to make it deep into the playoffs. I mean, you can't talk about High Brighton without talking about Reedsville.
Been around a long time, that's for sure.
Yeah, so with Reedsville doing what they're doing, we'll have to see when the pairings come out if High Brighton will go into the 2AA and Reedsville into the 2A. We'll have to see how that all shakes out. But I know he's having a good time there at West Iredale, looking around.
Is he still looking to get back this way one day?
I would sure hope so. I would hope so. And you'll probably hear him on the broadcast as we get into playoff season. I think they're going to be busy week 1 of the playoffs. I think West Iredale's probably going to make the playoffs, and then if he becomes available, we will get him on the broadcast. If you haven't heard Coach Jason Lippard and his color commentary, he's one of the best around. He's got a lot of insight and brings a lot to it. He called the Southwest Guilford at AC Reynolds game with me last year in the playoffs.
Did he meet you up there, or you pick him up along the way?
I picked him up along the way.
Right, going up there.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yep.
What about picking up on this right now? We got... looking at the polls, we usually go to the top 15, top 10. We got 15 Guilford County schools, we go to top 10. Right now, let's get down to the top 5 that are out there right now, kind of looming as we head down toward the end of the year. Who are your top 5 teams these days?
I tell you what, I guess we would go. You want to go 1 through 5 or 5 through 1?
You do it your way. How do you call
it? We'll go now. Start with number 1. After that big win on Monday night, Southeast Guilford Falcons, Kennedy Tinsley, the head coach there, his second year, going over to Eastern Guilford. I listened to your broadcast.
It's a big first half for Southeast, that's for sure.
30 to 3 at the half.
30 to 7, yeah.
30 to 7.
But then Eastern played well in the second half. One of those deals.
Yeah, and so they ended up coming back. Some made it respectable, 37-24.
And they had a couple of drives late in the game where they would have converted. They could have maybe picked up that extra touchdown. Then they would have been within 6 points. That's when we got interesting, but it didn't ever get quite that interesting. Got to give Coach Tinsley credit. Coach Corio out of Grimsley, the defense coordinator, gets a lot of credit too for that defense from Southeast. They played well. Second half, lights out versus Southern Alamance, and just about lights out just past one out in the first half.
So, we were looking at, as it was coming up with Southern Alamance playing Southeast a couple weeks ago, and we were like, they both, one loss for Southeast. They had that overtime loss against Northwest Guilford.
On a controversial call,
yes. And
all things said.
So, looking at that Southern Alamance game, Coach Fritz Hessenthaler comes in to Southeast, the formal coach there, and with an undefeated record, and Kennedy Tinsley and company able to get it done, and now that was the de facto conference championship game, I think, on Monday. I think that Southeast, they've got a pretty easy ride. They got to play their football, but if you look at their competition,
just take care of business. Take care of business, you're going to be okay.
No mental lapses.
And let Ryan Douglas lead the team and make sure he plays just like he did this past Monday. Douglas keeps playing like that. They got a good road ahead of them because Ryan Douglas is a strong quarterback. Very wise in his senior year. So
I will go Southeast number 1, and I've seen a lot of teams in the area, and with their record and the way things are going, getting that loss back from Page, I'm going to go Dudley number 2. And I got to tell you, Andy, I called the Southwest at Dudley game, and then I covered the Dudley at Smith game in back-to-back weeks. So I got to see him the very first start for Tawan Young at quarterback in that Southwest game, and I said it on the broadcast. He really looked like a 4-year starter in that game.
The only thing I got to say for their standpoint, I wish they could have got him in there sooner.
Yeah. I mean, but you got to understand too that they thought that Hooker was going to be the answer. They thought that Quad Monroe was going to be the answer, and they've stuck with it. Coach Davis really has, but finally he's like, all right, enough's enough. Let's bring somebody in
and leave him in there, let him go.
And Tawan has done an awesome job. But they came out. This is what really jumped out at me in those 2 games. Those 8 quarters I saw at Dudley. They came out in the 3rd quarter of that Smith game. After halftime, their first possession, they got the ball on the 20, and they came out in a wishbone formation.
I've heard something about that.
They came out in that wishbone, and it was 11 plays, 80 yards, touchdown. And I told Dimitri during the broadcast, this offense you see right here that they're running right now wins games in November and December. It was unstoppable. And now they brought
the freshman up from JV, and he's their primary back now for the most part. He was last game 3 touchdowns.
So we will see what now you've got.
They've got the bevy of backs. They lost Miles Smith to injury, lost Smith, but they still got Darby. They still got Will Height. They still got the new kid they brought up. They got a load, plenty of load.
Well, and
plus Young can run too.
They're going to be a tough out, and I'm sure we'll get to the Parkland game later. But I'll go Dudley 2, and then even with I don't think we can look at the forfeits by Page to actually tell the quality of the team, but I thought that they really bounced back well on Monday night. I watched that game on TV on my 48. So I had your game going on, the Southeast Eastern game going on in my ear. I'm watching the Page game on TV, and then I've got the football game, the NFL team.
Yeah, that's a busy Monday night.
It was fun. Yeah, I was like, wow, this was a lot of fun.
Just need to watch one game. What's today? Thursday. On Saturday, just watch that one game at 3:30. NC State Clemson. That's the game everybody needs to be watching Saturday. Got to watch that game Saturday. How about your other top 5 though?
Page at 3, and I think that I would go Eastern Guilford 4, Southwest Guilford 5, with an honorable mention in there, and we'll see what happens next week after they're on a bye this week. Grimsley, which I think we want to talk about that game, something that I saw last week, that Grimsley High Point Central game. So that would be my top 6.
So you got your 5, then Grimsley slips in at number 6, so just out of the top 5.
Yes.
They're playing well. How about the top 3 or 4 teams have the best chance to go far in the playoffs? Because some teams will get in there and do well, exciting excited going in. They may last around if they're fortunate, maybe get lucky go 2, but some of these teams might go 3, maybe go 4 to be fortunate. But how about the top 3 or so teams going deep in the playoffs?
It's going to depend on their draw and where they get put, of course.
If Southeast and Dudley and those guys Eastern all go east, that could be kind of tough.
Yes, and last year they did that to us where they put Dudley down at Southeast in the first round, and we hate that, but we understand for travel reasons and things like that. But looking at it, you're going to have Dudley and Southeast are going to be in the 3 AA, and Eastern's going to be in the 3 single A. And I think that if you look at Eastern in the 3 single, well, they may be. We'll have to see.
Yeah, last year 3 AA, this year maybe 3 single A.
So we'll have to see. But if you look at that 3 single A with Havelock and Jacksonville and all those teams,
that's tough in the East.
It is loaded, that 3 single A, and then with Charlotte Catholic in the 3 single A as well. That 3 single A is going to be really, really exciting to watch. Fortunately, a lot of our teams locally are going to be in that 3 AA, and we'll see how they draw that line down Guilford County. That's always the thing that we're looking at. Do they draw it right down Church Street, and send Smith to the west and Dudley goes to the east, or they slide it a little bit over? I mean, we'll have to see.
Those 3 teams you mentioned, Southeast, Eastern, Dudley, are definitely all have good possibilities no matter where they go. They got a good shot.
They've got a good shot. And if you look at the 3 single A, I think Northern Guilford is really getting things going. I think they'll go single A, 3 single A.
I think they may go 3 AA.
We'll have to see.
High attendance, yeah. Because sometimes there were a couple of years they were kind of close to 4A. And then I think they usually go 3 AA, but it could switch. You never know.
But Northeast Guilford and around the area is going to go 3 single A.
Yeah, they're always 3 single A.
Sure. Yeah. And the thing that they don't want is to be sent out to the east.
Yeah, especially round 1, you're going down to
the Havelock Invitational is what we like to call it. And it seems like Burlington Williams likes to draw that Havelock Invitational. Yeah. I think they've been down there 3 years.
They may not get in this year the way that conference sets up.
Yeah, but I think that they got the wins. I mean, there are 5 wins, so they may get in. We'll see how many they let in from that conference.
Right.
That's going to be. But I think winning your conference is key. And so if you're going to win your conference, tomorrow night's game, the Piedmont Triad 3A that I've been
you'll be at that Page Central game, and Page is in a situation now they're must win. Every week's a playoff game for them.
Absolutely.
Every week.
And so then Dudley and Parkland next week, or actually on Friday, tomorrow night, that's the de facto conference championship game, I think, for the Piedmont Triad 3A. And so we'll have to see what goes on with that.
What about Player of the Year? You got some guys in mind for that? Maybe 3 guys? I don't want to put you at 1. That's asking too much. But maybe about 3 guys, since we've got about 3 weeks left in the season. Maybe about 3 guys that are your top candidates for Player of the Year.
Well, I think that if you look at, we're just talking Guilford County teams.
Guilford County, yeah.
Guilford County.
Easier to assess.
Yeah, easier to assess. That Javondre Page, I think, at Page High School.
But I tell people, I don't think he's played quite. He played a little bit better last year. I think he's coming around this year. I think he played a little bit better last year, and his game may have started. You saw him Monday night, so his game may be coming together that, but he's still a very strong candidate because he's definitely put up the numbers.
Yes, and he looks very comfortable back there. We saw him a few times last year, and I called the Mallard Creek game 3rd round of the playoffs.
That's a defensive battle there.
Yeah, and that game basically was caused by an illegal forward pass by Page. He threw a touchdown pass, but he was 4 yards across the line. I mean, they were that close.
Well, both teams were struggling for offense, and Mallard Creek got hit by the same thing in the Wake Forest game, that championship game.
Yeah.
Very little offense in that game either.
So then I think you would have to go. I'm going to go ahead and put Quan Nora out there, running back from Grimsley. I really kind of coming out of nowhere, and I think Ryan Douglas from Southeast Guilford is a really good candidate. Defensively, John Oxy from Southwest Guilford, defensive lineman, just doing what he's been doing for the past 3 seasons there.
How about our man Colin Smith out of Eastern Guilford? Can a kicker get some love around here?
I know you have absolutely, since the first game of the season you called the Eastern Northeast game,
crazy
you have been absolutely.
It's hard for a kicker to get it, but I think this kid deserves some consideration.
I have not seen him play in person this year.
46-yarder this past Monday with room to spare. The one game we did over at Page, a 53-yarder there, and he's got the talent.
And
plus,
not just his punting ability.
He threw a pass Monday night it ends up incomplete because the receiver dropped the ball, and they would have had automatic first down. Second half play too.
Well, didn't I've heard you call several games where he's ripped a punt for over 60 yards.
Oh, yeah, he had a 61-yarder in that game against Northeast. He's had 60-yarders against Page. I think he averaged right at 48.5 or in that neighborhood Monday night. Every kick's going close to 50 yards.
I mean, I would definitely put him in there.
He won't win it, but I think he needs some consideration.
Yeah, absolutely. Colin Smith has had a great year. And have you heard anything about any recruiting possibilities for him?
Nothing major, no. I didn't call, email one school for him, but they said they already had their kickers lined up. But he'll go somewhere. I think he likes A&T of all places. He likes A&T quite a bit. He'd love to go there for the education.
I tell you what they've got going on in that program is absolutely.
They need a field goal kicker because they've been getting beat by field goals. Got beat by Florida A&M by field goal. Morgan State beat them by field goal. They've got a decent field. They need a better field goal kicker.
And that's the thing about North Carolina A&T in football and basketball and UNCG in basketball. They are finally getting those recruits, those really good 3-star, 4-star recruits from Guilford County who are staying at home.
And the good thing is kids now want to go there.
Sure. Yeah, well, what is that they say? Winning cures all ills.
Yes, sir. No, they've got it. How about Coach of the Year?
I think that what Kennedy Tinsley's done at Southeast.
Yeah, I thought you might say another thing just came to my mind though. As things go on, we're getting close to the end. I think we talked a lot about the kids coming here tonight from Grimsley. He might get some consideration.
My next one was going to be Daryl Brown.
I was thinking about that.
I've been super impressed, and I think that marquee win they were probably 3 touchdown underdogs going over to Ragsdale.
Oh yeah,
and
everybody thought Ragsdale beat them because Ragsdale beat them pretty handily last year.
Yep.
But Grimsley showed them much improvement.
It does not seem like this is the Grimsley team from last year.
Yeah,
I mean, they started off a little shaky, and then they pulled it around. Now they've won 3 in a row, and I think you've got to go back to 2006, the last time Grimsley won 3 games in a row. I know it had been 11 years since they had won 2 in a row.
Yeah.
And so that's what we talked about last week.
A little further back, early 2000s, they played in the state championship game of all things, 4A state championship.
Yeah.
Crazy stuff. But now Coach Brown got a lot of respect too, and he respects his players. I see him at practice. Was over there yesterday watching the middle school game. His guys finished up about 6:30 coming in to the field house, coming to the stadium, getting ready to go home. But he always speaks to those kids. Johnny, see you later on. Hope you have a good afternoon. Take care of yourself. And he doesn't do it pretentiously. It's genuine.
Sure.
He asks about those kids all the time. And I think those kids, they remember that stuff.
Well, and Dimitri Morrison, who has been my color commentator all season, he is a Grimsley graduate from 1998. He was a 4-sport athlete there at Grimsley, and he went down and talked to Daryl Brown last Friday night and introduced himself and all that. And Coach Brown just put his arm around him, bring him right on in. And I tell you what, getting that Grimsley alum and that alumni association, everything, they're having their 20-year class reunion next Friday night at the Page game. So I know that Dimitri want me to plug that. If you are a 1998 graduate of Grimsley, please come to the game and enjoy the festivities on Saturday as well.
Any other tough candidates? Got Coach Tinsley, got Coach Brown. Anybody else you can think of off the bat?
Kind of flying low under the radar, but kind of doing his thing. Earl Bates up in Northeast I think that they've got a tough game this week. Northeast does at Western Alamance, but I think that they went out after that. So they're looking at another 7-win season. Solid
effort there as always. What about the pick on the Parkland-Dudley game tomorrow night? Just wrote this down earlier. Parkland 8-0 back in 2001. They went to that 9th win of the season. Game 9, Dudley went in and beat them. After that, Parkland doesn't lose another game. They got the quarterback Jed Bynes running back. They got Monte Purvis quarterback. Got D'Angelo Bell from Grimsley grab the coach. Won the whole thing that year. But that season, 8-0, cruising along. Week 9, Dudley beats them. Who beats them tomorrow night? Does Dudley beat them, or do they beat themselves, or does Parkland win?
As you went through some of the players, the 2 players to watch for Parkland is Camion Steele and
that linebacker with the crazy spelling. Yeah.
Lee Pogba.
He's like a sophomore, isn't he?
So Lee Pogba's a senior.
He's a senior?
Yeah.
Okay.
Lee Pogba's a senior.
The quarterback's a sophomore.
Yes.
He's the young guy.
And
but that linebacker, Pogba, he's like ranked among the top, I think, 50 players in the state.
And he had originally verbally committed to West Virginia. He decommitted last week, and I checked this morning because I knew I was coming on here. Guess who's hot to trot on Lee Pogba? Florida State Seminoles. And so I'm pretty sure if you look at the reason why he decommitted from West Virginia is they have 4 outside linebackers already committed.
Oh, coming in.
So they only have 2 committed at Florida State, and I know that Lee Pogba, I will say, out of all the
How big is that guy?
he is 6'2", 210 pounds, and he runs like the wind.
Wow.
In the Southwest Guilford game that I called,
Does
it
he
was
play
a
in the middle or
close
on the
game.
outside?
He's outside. And but he moves all over the field.
Oh, yeah.
They snuck him in on offense one play during the game. They called a timeout, came over, they were in a big bunch over at the sidelines, and they went out on the field and busted into formation, and lo and behold, he's there in running back, and they hand the ball off to him. It's 1st and 10 from the 32 of Southwest, and handed the ball off to him. 32 yards later, he's doing a little dance.
Well, he might be doing something tomorrow night like that then. Better look out for that if you're
You
Dudley.
better watch. You better watch.
Sounds
And
like
Lee
Coach-
Pogba is by far the most talented athlete I've seen on the field all season.
Sounds like Coach Davis, a lot of respect for Parkland, what they've done with Coach Samick, but back to the bottom line, who wins that?
I am going, if they come out and do that wishbone, it's going to be hard to stop. I'm going to go Dudley in a nail biter. Whoever doesn't make a mistake in the 4th quarter is the one that's going to win.
I just hope it's like a lot of these games sometimes. I hope it lives up to the hype. I hope it's a real good game.
I think it's going to be a lower scoring game, though. Those defenses are both good. I tell you what, if you talk about a sophomore to watch for that defensive Dudley, Peyton Page.
Oh, the big kid.
The
Yeah.
big
He's
kid.
a big one.
He's 6'5", 310 pounds, and he's 15 years old. What?
He's like Demario Presley they had when they played in the state championship back about 2003. That kid was huge. So watch out for these. Watch out. So you're taking Dudley.
I'll take Dudley.
Yeah,
And
okay.
if it was because Parkland is home, I would say they're a -3 and Dudley's a +3. Because Parkland's at home, I'll take Dudley with the points.
What about Eastern Guilford, Southern Alamance?
I tell you what, that's going to be a good
They
team.
had that week off. Southern Alamance did to get ready to
And-
kind of ease their wounds after that
Eastern's
loss.
going to have the 3
They gotta
games
go
in
quick.
11 days.
Quick
You have 4
turnaround.
days off in between.
They're still thinking about
that.
that. They got to get those mistakes out of their mind. They committed in that game against Southeast. They got to get those interceptions out of mind, those turnovers out of mind. They got to get back on even keel.
They are going to know how to pronounce JSI really quick.
Yeah, right.
It's J-Si Hatfield, quarterback for Southern Alamance.
Quarterback, running back, slot back,
whatever
wide
you want,
receiver.
yeah.
The weird thing about that is everybody knew he played a lot of different quarterbacks, but when he plays the quarterbacks, he doesn't put one in, you just come out of the game. He puts one in, that one stays in the game. Then he puts another one in, that guy moves over, this guy, they all stay in the game.
Right.
They're crazy.
That's
They got
Coach
backs
Fritz.
everywhere.
That's Coach Fritz.
Yeah.
That's what he's going to do. Yeah.
But you're picking who there?
I think that I am going to take Southern Alamance at home for the upset.
That might be just a straight up win for them.
Yeah.
Eastern Guilford still smarting from that loss.
Yeah.
And this game might determine Eastern Guilford's fortunes for the rest of the year, too, when it comes to play all the time. And I just don't think, I think the difference, I'll give you the difference. That game in Southeast, Eastern Guilford, it came down to the quarterback. Senior quarterback Southeast, sophomore quarterback for Eastern Guilford. I can tell you this, no disrespect for Southeast. If Dominique Grace is quarterback Eastern Guilford wins that game by 2 touchdowns.
How about how he's doing
he's tearing it
over
up.
Winston-Salem State?
Killing it. Yeah, it's amazing. He got a chance to quarterback. He was already the punter. He wasn't even the punter in high school. He was a backup guy.
Right.
He gets that job to be the quarterback in 311 yards, 15 and 19, and hope he can keep it up.
If
he keeps improving,
we've had the
I tell you,
opportunity
the ceiling's the limit for him.
over his 4 years at
Lord.
Eastern Guilford. We had the opportunity to meet him and get to know him,
And
he would be a good one to bring on here.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
he's definitely he lives up to his number. He's
I
definitely
tell you
number
what,
one.
Yes,
No doubt about that.
I really think a lot of Dom Graves. What a great kid.
And his brother is starting too on the
Starting
offensive
too,
line.
yep.
He started before
Well,
Dominique
that's
started.
a message that goes out to all the kids out there when you're listening, that when you go on to college and go to the next level. Tariq Ridges from Northeast is finding that at Guilford College too. He had a blocked field goal a couple weeks ago, but whatever he
And the
went and
Overton
told his
kid's
coach-
doing it too at Guilford College. Plus the kid from Southern Guilford, Jeremiah Hedrick. I mentioned him to Coach yesterday, Coach Brown, Darryl Brown, said, what about Hedrick? He had an interception last Friday night, had about 13 tackles. I mean, you go to these schools, you're going to get some playing time if you work your way in. You're going to get some recognition.
Right.
People aren't going to forget you.
And you go to your coach and say, whatever you need me to do to contribute, coach.
Oh, yeah.
And you be well, and go out there and work hard and show them that you're willing to work, and you'll get playing time.
If you get on special teams to make tackles, they're going to put you on the field to make tackles during the game. If you can tackle on special teams, they're going to find a spot for you eventually.
Sure.
You'll get
Absolutely.
some work. Get some work. So we got Southern Alamance. We got Dudley winning. Southeast primed to win that conference. They need 3 more wins to close out a perfect conference season. Last time they won the conference was back in 1968, 50 years ago.
That is unbelievable.
50 years ago.
Unbelievable. And I know
that's half a century.
And you know, the good thing is because Southeast had a good season last year, the fans got on board, and the fans are there, and now the fans are here.
They're building.
They're listening. They're coming to the games. They're backing the team. And when you kind of have a team that starts really spurting like Southeast is, sometimes it takes their fans a little while to go look around and go, oh my goodness, we're good. See, that's what I think is going to happen with Grimsley too. They're going to like turn around and go, well, it's an overnight sensation, 4 years in the making.
Right. Well, Southeast too. You look at it. Last year they went 9-3, but they got beat that first round of the playoffs.
Yeah.
Had a great year, but one round of the playoffs and done. One and done.
That
you don't
was
like
a bad
that.
draw. That was, and sometimes
And then Dudley goes to Wilmington. They should have beat Wilmington, New Hanover. Dudley had those guys beat and made mistakes.
So sometimes it takes some of these local teams. It gets in there mentally that they're playing Dudley, and they end up losing mentally.
Dudley's got a 10-point lead, 14-point lead. A lot of teams, when they pull on Lincoln Street, when they make that right-hand turn off of East Gate City Boulevard, they make that right. They're already down 14 points.
Because you remember last year when Dudley went
they start
over
looking
to
around, they're
Southwest.
driving in, they look around, and go, man, oh man, where are we at?
Yeah.
You know where you're at. You're in the house, you're in the Panthers' house.
Yeah, right.
And Coach Best, once you forget that.
And what an awesome place to play at the Tarp. And hopefully I'll be calling the Mount Tabor at Dudley game last game of the season. Well, actually it'll be November 2nd because it won't necessarily be the last week of the season. Because now
maybe Mount Tabor will keep winning and upset a few people along the way.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Hopefully, of course, we're rooting for our Southwest Gilbert Cowboys tomorrow night as they go to Mount Tabor. And I believe Tyree Graham, who has missed the last 3 games, they have actually had 3 weeks off now. They had a bye, didn't play last week. That Smith game got moved to November 9th. And then, so they should have everybody healthy. And I will tell you that Southwest Guilford team, when they lost to Parkland, in the Parkland game, Tyree Graham, their fullback.
He's their running back, right?
Yeah, he's their fullback in that I formation. But they use him all over the place. But in that I formation, he makes that I formation work. He's a senior. He's
a good scorer too, and he scores
6 touchdowns in the first 3 games, and then he gets dinged in the Parkland game, and in the Dudley game he did not play, and you could really tell that offense just did not work at all.
And that hurts Southwest because they beat Dudley last year, right?
Yes.
That was a huge win. You'd love to follow it up with another win this year. What about your game going back last week? 1 week ago, you had Grimsley and High Point Central. Talk about how the Whirlies look. You mentioned Quan because he was out the previous week, and that's when Bourne Lasagne did so well. But Quan Nor comes back, has a big week last week on the ground.
And Bourne Lasagne played really well. I mean, coming in, carrying the ball.
They play at the same time, or they rotate?
Sometimes, they have them in at the same time, or come
take some pressure off that quarterback, Chris Ellis. Before all the pressure was on him to do too much.
And he really playing within himself, and he only threw the ball a few times, but when he did, he hit a 61-yard touchdown pass, and then he overthrew one that he was wide open. But defensively against High Point Central, Grimsley looked really good. But Quan Nora, just going back to him, I think it was 147 yards and 3 touchdowns in that High Point Central game. He was our player of the game, and I know he was a candidate for player of the week.
Right.
But I came away from that game really impressed, knowing that with Page having to play 3 times in 11 days, and then Grimsley having the week off, so only having to play, having the week off, so 14 days in between games, that Page might be right for the picking next week. You better watch,
You look at that Rob Dalton. What about Rob Dalton? What can you tell us about Rob? He'll be here tonight. He got player of the game from the accumulation of stats in that Ragsdale win 2 weeks ago. How about Dalton?
I called his name a couple times,
on
but
defense?
he was on defense, and that he was out there and disruptive. I know that there was a there was a pick six, and I can't remember who it was from. That they ran it all the way back, but they held the ball behind them in high step starting at the 5-yard line. So they throw the penalty for unsportsmanlike, and it comes back to the 20. They hand the ball off to Quan Nora, who gets out to about the 15. It becomes a scrum with lots of High Point Central players, and all of a sudden Quan Nora shoots out of the pack and takes it to the house for another 15 yards. So it's 20-yard touchdown run the next play after that pick six was called back.
Can't beat that.
So, yeah.
Excellent play. What about Worley's last week? Yep, you guys take a seat right there. We'll be with you in just a couple minutes, guys. Have you coming right in here. This week, got Page and Central.
Well, I think that Page, even on the short week, you can't sleep on High Point Central. They are giving up way too many points on defense.
Yeah, they've got a very good offense with Godfrey and McDuffie, but the defense just not getting it done this year.
Not getting it done, and giving up lots of yards.
I know Coach Jones
ground.
isn't happy about that either.
No.
Hey, I know he's a track man, got a lot of speed, but he wants his team not to be in those shootouts. He wants to win these games.
And lots of penalties. I've called High Point Central 3 times this year, and it's been a penalty fest every time. And so, I think you got to go Page, but Page has to make sure they don't get anybody hurt, no injuries, because they're going to need everybody, all hands on deck against Grimsley.
Big game coming up next Friday night. Those two over at Grimsley. Page, like you say, they beat Northwest 26-6. You would think going in, just kind of everybody's observations and predictions and thoughts going in. Maybe Page might win that game by about 3 or 4 touchdowns. A little tighter than people would think. 26-6. Northwest gave us some good competition.
They stretched it out in the fourth quarter. It was still tight.
You were watching it.
Yeah, it was a one-possession ball game all the way to about 7 minutes. They gave up a punt return for a touchdown, and that kind of took the wind out of their sails.
And then they had to block punt, and then took it back for the TD.
Right.
Plus, you look at the Page defense. Page defense played extremely well.
Yes, they did. And that's the thing. It's kind of the irresistible force versus the immovable object. So Page is great at stopping the run, and Grimsley is great at running.
Right.
So who's going to win that battle? Because I think that Grimsley's they're averaging almost 300 yards on the ground.
Wow, it's a lot of yards
per game. And then you have Page that is probably giving up less than 70 on the ground. I know against Northwest, I bet they didn't give up 20 for the game.
That's a lot like the matchup with Dudley and Southeast, because in that game, Southeast against Dudley's vaunted running game gave up less than 100 yards, and if you do that against the Dudley, you do that against the Page, you got a good chance to win.
Yeah, and I'll go ahead and call my shot now, even though I'm calling Page this week.
Ahead.
I think that Grimsley takes a W next week. I'm going to say it. They huge upset, because I bet they'll go in 3 touchdown underdog in that game.
A little bit different flip here to college. What about that game Saturday, NC State Clemson Textile Bowl? Who do you like in that game?
I think that I have to go Clemson, but I think it's going to be close. And if NC State
have been close as of late.
Yeah, and as it goes down the stretch, I think that you just wonder, just like we were talking about earlier, when you're playing a Dudley or playing some of those, if it starts getting in those players' heads that we're playing Clemson.
Tell you one thing, Ryan Finley is going to be going like this. He's going to be all over the place, moving back and forth. He cannot sit still. He's going to get killed. He's got to move around in the pocket. He's got to break out of the pocket. Hopefully Reggie Gillespie can get a few yards. One of Darryl Brown's protege some years ago. Maybe the state running game can help out. What about the Broncos and Cardinals tonight on Fox?
Well, if I want to go home tonight, I have to take the Broncos, because my wife is a lifelong Bronco fan.
That's a good one.
So that will be required watching in my house.
And you guys will be watching. That's good.
Oh, absolutely.
I thought some people might go home and take a nap during that game, because you look at Broncos 2-4 and then the Cardinals 1-5. Both teams struggling this year.
Yeah, but there's
and
always
the Cardinals have got C.J. Logan. If ever let him play, I don't know what the deal is. He must be injured. Must be something wrong with TJ.
It's an out-of-conference game for him, so I think that this will be an opportunity. I know that my wife Hillary, who's also our producer at Greensboro Sports Radio 2, keeps commenting on the fact that letting Akeem Talib go has really made a difference in that defense. You can tell that he's not there. That Denver's not got that lockdown defense that they've had in the years past.
Just like the Raiders, I guess, guess, give up that Khalil Mack deal to the Bears made a big difference. What about UNC and Syracuse? It's at Syracuse, and UNC has not had a very good year.
And as you know, I'm wearing my Carolina blue, and I'm a Tar Heel born, Tar Heel bred.
Yeah.
Absolutely, born in Chapel Hill.
Wow.
And I am
Boy,
always.
you were the first people I found that admitted that. That's good.
Yes. I was born at the University of North Carolina Memorial Hospital. Yeah, my dad taught at the university for a long time.
You can't beat that.
And
that's good stuff.
so I am a Tar Heel, but I don't think that they've got anything for the Orange. I think that we had hopes last week with the freshman coming in, Finley,
the new guy, yeah.
And then he gets hurt, and I think he's going to be out for the season.
Do you think they'll get Des Bryant there next year? Not Des Bryant, but Kelly Bryant.
Kelly Bryant.
Yeah, I got my Bryant's
mixed up. They're trying.
They're working on it.
They're trying.
A lot of people want them to get him there this year, but it works better for him if he went and sit out the rest of the year like you're doing right now and you get a full season next year.
Right.
So he could be there. Maybe see Kelly Bryant there next year.
So
we still have Sage Surratt. Surratt could be a great player someday.
They're not leaving him in there long enough to go through those growing pains, and that was one of the criticisms I had with Fedora last year, that I thought that you need to go eggs all in one basket with Chaz Surratt, let him play all season, which they didn't do, and it's very hard for these young players to play looking over their shoulder thinking the next play I could get.
What do you think that these kids will be coached by Larry Fedora in the future, or do you think there'll be some kind of buyout?
I think that they'll keep him till
expensive buyout.
Yeah, they'll keep him till the end of this contract. I'm going to go ahead and say that, but it's going to be up to Larry to be able to get re-signed for an extension.
What about UVA and Duke? Duke looking pretty good at 5-1.
I think Duke's got that one.
I hope they do. I'd like to see them keep winning because they're going to lose some games later on. They need all the wins they can now to help that bowl perspective later on. I got the Panthers and Eagles on Sunday. Panthers need a bounce-back game. Eagles are looking for anything they can get. They got the Super Bowl defending champs there, but they're not playing too well right now. I
think that if you were going to pick this game, I would probably go Philly, but I think the Panthers have a really good chance to beat them. I honestly do not think that the Eagles are as good of a team with Carson Wentz at quarterback. That's
interesting point I guess here too. Now Torrey Smith, he's a Panther. Now, he was with the Eagles last year, and the guy's a great receiver. That game this past Sunday, he might have been one of the top receivers among the core they've got out there. I think they should go to him more, the Panthers. Torrey Smith,
absolutely,
very good routes, and maybe Greg Olsen gets healthy. They should have probably hit him late in the game. They were going long, trying to get that long touchdown against the Skins. Probably should have went to the middle of the field and got some chipping away at the yardage there.
So I'm just making sure with my picks that I'll be able to go home tonight, and I won't get blown up on the email. I'm picking Denver for sure, and I'm going to pick the Eagles over the Panthers, even though I think it'll be close. It could be a toss-up, but it will be Eagles -3 because they're at home.
Yep, you got it. You got Chris Walser, Greensboro Sports Radio 2 tomorrow night. They've got the game with Page at High Point Central. It'll be on Greensboro Sports Radio 2 around 7 p.m. pregame.
Yeah, and you can make sure to download the radio.net app. It's a really good way to listen to your broadcast and to mine. So you download free on your smartphone, and then you can just search Greensboro Sports Radio or Greensboro Sports Radio 2. It'll pull them right up. You can load them both up. You can listen to our games in replay. You can listen to the Kickback Jack show, Football and Focus.
Yeah, it's still in there rotating. Sure is.
Yeah, and then we have our football games, and the game you're doing tomorrow night is
we're doing the Ragsdale at Northwest Guilford.
Ragsdale Northwest Guilford, and that's going to be a good one.
It's a pivotal game because there's so few games in that conference. We're playing 4 conference games. Every one of them's like life or death. And we both loaded up on that Metro 4A on the games that we're calling because that's where the action's at right now. Right, that's hot for the next few weeks.
Andy, Chris, thank you so much for having me as always.
Yes, sir.
And have fun tomorrow night. And we will be off next week on Greensboro Sports Radio 1 or Greensboro Sports Radio 2, so you'll have the Paige Grimsley game, and we won't be splitting audiences next week.
Sounds good.
Thank you,
Chris. Good job.